Dark clouds hung low over the mountains, and the silence of the valleys echoed with the distant thud of artillery. This was Nagorno-Karabakh, a small patch of land in the heart of the Caucasus that two nations had claimed for generations. It's not just the story of one war, but a saga written in history, politics, and blood. The air here carries the weight of old grudges and new fears. Azerbaijan and Armenia, neighbors on the map, strangers in the heart. Karabakh itself is green and mountainous, but its soil has grown used to conflict rather than peace. Until the early 1800s, the territory switched hands between Persia, the Ottoman Empire, and Russia. Everything changed in 1828 with the Treaty of Turkmenchay. Russia seized the region from Persia and absorbed it into its empire. Over time, the Armenian population became the majority, but geographically, it remained tied to Azerbaijan. The creation of the Soviet Union put things on hold for a while. In 1923, Moscow issued its ruling. Nagorno-Karabakh would be an autonomous oblast, but still part of Azerbaijan. For Armenians, this felt like an injustice carved into stone. Generations would remember it that way. The two peoples kept a fragile peace, but beneath the surface, tension was building like a dormant volcano. It was only a matter of time before it erupted. By the late 1980s, the Soviet Union was weakening. National identities were waking up again. In February 1988, Armenian leaders in Karabakh demanded that Moscow transfer the region to Armenia. That demand was like striking a match in dry grass. Protests and ethnic clashes exploded across Azerbaijan. In the city of Sumgait, violence claimed dozens of lives. Armenian refugees fled their homes. Azerbaijani villages were also burned in retaliation. By 1991, the Soviet Union collapsed. Armenia and Azerbaijan became independent states. With independence came war. Nagorno-Karabakh declared itself the Republic of Artsakh. For Azerbaijan, this was an open challenge to its sovereignty. From 1991 to 1994, all-out war raged. Armenian forces seized not only Karabakh, but also 7 surrounding Azerbaijani districts. Hundreds of thousands of Azerbaijanis were displaced from their homes. The battlefield echoed with tank fire, artillery barrages, and rocket strikes. Russia tried to mediate, but by then, Armenia had gained the upper hand. In 1994, both sides signed the Bishkek Protocol. It was a ceasefire, not a peace agreement. Azerbaijan was left nursing the wound of losing 20% of its territory. Karabakh came under Armenian administration. No country in the world officially recognized it, but on the ground, Armenia was in control. Border skirmishes became routine. Every few months, gunfire or an explosion would claim another life. Azerbaijan began modernizing its military. Oil and gas revenues fueled the buildup. Turkey and Israel supplied advanced weaponry. Armenia relied heavily on Russia for arms, training, and political backing. In 2016, a 4-day war broke out. Azerbaijan captured a few strategic hills and outposts. It was a warning to Armenia. The balance of power was shifting. Life in Karabakh remained tense. Children walked to school under the sound of distant gunfire. Elders carried the scars of wars past. Neither side was ready to compromise. Year after year, military drills, border clashes, and bitter rhetoric kept tensions high. By 2020, the region was again on the brink. On a September morning, artillery fire shattered the silence. This was the start of the Second Karabakh War. Azerbaijani drones dominated the skies. Turkish-made Bayraktar TB2S and Israeli missiles became decisive tools. The mountains echoed with explosions as the front lines shifted. Television screens in Baku showed live footage of advancing troops. In Yerevan, Armenians fortified their towns and prayed for reinforcements. Every day, new maps were released showing Azerbaijani gains. By early November, Azerbaijan captured Shusha, a key city. It was the turning point of the war. Armenia's position crumbled. Russia stepped in to broker a deal. On November 10, 2020, both sides signed a ceasefire. Azerbaijan regained large portions of its lost territory. Russian peacekeepers moved into Karabakh, but peace still felt fragile. A small part of Karabakh remained under Armenian control. Azerbaijan made it clear that it wanted the rest. By 2021 and 2022, tensions rose again. Russia was now distracted by its war in Ukraine. Armenia's main security partner was weakened. In September 2023, Azerbaijan launched what it called an anti-terror operation. Within 24 hours, Armenian forces in Karabakh surrendered. The entire region came under Azerbaijani control. Tens of thousands of ethnic Armenians fled to Armenia. The local Armenian government dissolved itself. It was Azerbaijan's biggest victory in decades. But one question remains: will this bring lasting peace? Or will it be the start of another chapter? The fall of 2023 marked a turning point in the South Caucasus. For Azerbaijan, it was a military triumph decades in the making. For Armenia, it was a national tragedy. In Yerevan, government officials faced angry protests. Citizens accused Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan of failing to protect Karabakh. Some even called for his resignation. Pashinyan, however, argued that Armenia could no longer fight a war it could not win. Years of relying on Russian protection had backfired. Russia, bogged down in Ukraine, had neither the resources nor the political will to intervene. The Russian peacekeepers stationed in Karabakh stood by as Azerbaijani forces advanced. Moscow insisted it was neutral, but many Armenians felt betrayed. Meanwhile, Baku celebrated its restoration of territorial integrity. President Ilham Aliyev addressed the nation with confidence. He declared that Azerbaijan had ended the Karabakh separatist regime once and for all. The streets of Baku filled with fireworks and flags. Turkey, Azerbaijan's closest ally, sent congratulations. President Erdogan praised Aliyev for reclaiming historic lands. In the West, reactions were mixed. Some saw Azerbaijan's victory as inevitable. Others worried about the humanitarian cost. Over 100,000 ethnic Armenians fled Karabakh in just days. Their centuries-old communities were left empty. Convoys of cars and buses jammed the roads to Armenia. Families carried whatever they could: photos, clothes, and memories. International aid groups scrambled to provide food, shelter, and medicine. In Armenia, refugee camps overflowed. The United Nations called for urgent humanitarian assistance. But the political reality was clear. Karabakh was now firmly under Azerbaijani control. Inside Azerbaijan, the government began reconstruction plans. Roads, schools, and housing projects were announced. Baku invited ethnic Armenians to return as Azerbaijani citizens. Most refused, fearing discrimination or worse. The region's demographic map was changing overnight. Diplomatic channels between Yerevan and Baku reopened cautiously. Talks were held in Brussels, Washington, and Moscow. The European Union tried to mediate. The United States urged a lasting peace agreement. But deep mistrust made progress slow. Armenia demanded security guarantees. Azerbaijan insisted on recognition of its sovereignty over all Karabakh. The talks moved forward in fits and starts. Turkey played an active role in supporting Azerbaijan's position. Iran, sharing borders with both countries, watched carefully. Tehran feared that Turkish influence in the Caucasus was growing too strong. Regional geopolitics became more complex. Russia wanted to remain the main power broker. The EU wanted stability for energy corridors. The US wanted to prevent another war and keep Russia's influence limited. Meanwhile, Armenia began reassessing its alliances. For decades, its security strategy had been built on Moscow's support. Now, Yerevan was looking to the west. Talks began with the United States and France for military cooperation. Western training missions were proposed. Pashinyan even hinted that Armenia might seek closer ties with NATO. Azerbaijan, however, warned against foreign interference. Border tensions flared again in late 2024. Small arms fire and mortar exchanges became common. Both sides accused each other of provocations. Social media amplified nationalist rhetoric. In both capitals, war veterans spoke of unfinished business. The risk of another major conflict was still real. In Washington, policymakers debated how much the U.S. should be involved. Some argued for strong mediation. Others warned against getting pulled into another faraway conflict. The South Caucasus had become a geopolitical chessboard, and every move carried consequences far beyond the mountains of Karabakh. By early 2025, there were signs of cautious progress. A prisoner exchange was completed. Border demarcation talks began. Trade routes were discussed, but peace remained fragile. The world's attention shifted quickly to other crises: Ukraine, the Middle East, and domestic issues in the U.S. Yet for the people of Armenia and Azerbaijan, the wounds of the Karabakh wars were still fresh. Many wondered if their children would grow up in peace or inherit another round of fighting. International mediators knew that without a durable agreement, the cycle could repeat. The stakes were high, not just for the Caucasus, but for the stability of the entire region. This was the backdrop for the next phase of diplomacy, one in which unexpected players, including former U.S. President Donald Trump, would leave a mark.